welcome back to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers. Thank you guys for subscribing to Stylish Naija YouTube channel. Thank you for your love, for your support. If you are new to the channel, you're highly and very welcome. And if you have not subscribed, please, I would appreciate if you hit on the subscribe button and then hit on the bell on the side to get an update whenever I upload a new video. You can see it is folded into two. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start introducing the measurements. So this is the first line we have here, which is the shoulder line. And then we have some couple of lines, which I'm going to explain. The next line is our bust line, which is 11 inches. That's the nipple point. That's 11 inches. That's bust line. And then the under bust, that's from shoulder to under bust, is 14 inches. This is under bust. And then from shoulder to waist, that's your waist. That's top of your waist, is usually 19 inches, which is waist. And then from shoulder to knee is 36, so that's the knee length. So the next thing now, we're on this shoulder line. I'm going to use shoulder measurement of 16 for this. So when you divide 16 into 2, you have, you divide into 2, you have 8 inches. So I'll mark the 8 inches like this, and then from this 8 inches I'm just going to come down by 1 inch. So after measuring that 1 inch, I will connect that 1 inch to that shoulder line, just slope it into that point. And then from here, the armhole measurement, that's the round armhole, is 17, which is like 8.5 inches. 8 plus 8 is 16, then 16.5. So you mark it, just put a mark there, and then I'll do this, and then I will just connect it here like this. And then after connecting it, I'll come to this point like this. So I'm just going to leave it. So let's just leave it like this first. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, before I connect the armhole, just leave it, I'll connect it later. Okay, let's just connect it so it will be easier. So since we are going to make this like a little bust here, we're not going to do it flat so that it is not flat. Okay, so I'm trying to place my pattern curve properly. Okay. So the next thing now, we're going to use our bust span measurement. So for a bust of 39, the bust span usually is going to be like 9 inches. So you divide 9 inches into 2. So after dividing 9 inches into 2, we're going to have 4.5. So that 4.5, I'm going to mark it across all of my lines here, like this. And then I'll rule it with my straight ruler, like this. Okay, so you can see, so this is going to be my dart line. Okay. After marking this, the next thing we're going to do now, we're going to start adding our darts to it. That's it's easier that way. This is the waist part. I'll mark 2 inches, and then I'll come to this under bust part. Since we don't want the bust here that is too big, from this under bust we'll mark that 2 inches on this right hand side, and then we'll mark 1 inch on this left hand side. So you can see what I'm going to do now. So I'll just connect it like this with a straight ruler. I'm still going to blend it a little bit. It's not going to be sharp. 1 inch to this side, 2 inch to this side. So I'm going to blend this like this. Just blend it a little bit. Okay, just blend it. And then from this point, I'll come to this dart line up here. I'm going to come to this side by 1 inch to my right, and then half of an inch to the left. Half inch here, 1 inch here. So this line here now, this 1 inch for this dart in the center, we're going to connect it to this one like this. Just use your ruler like this, just connect it. You see it has blended. So you see you have a little bit of shape here. And then this one also, you are going to connect it to here. So this is what you are just going to do. Just place your tape, your ruler like this, and then just connect it. So when you connect it, this one, because you don't want it sharp, you're just going to like just blend it a little bit, so it's not very sharp. So you can see it is very simple. So this 1 inch now, you're just going to take this 1 inch like this now. You are going to connect it, just float it into the knee, around the knee area like this. Just let it blend into it. And then these 2 inches that we took from here, so on this waistline, you can decide not to, initially I measured 2 inches, but you can decide not to use 2 inches. In short, don't use 2 inches. Don't use 2 inches, so it will be easy for you. So on this part, just come in by 1 inch. It's better that way. So that 1 inch now, I'll connect it like this to this point, like this. Once you connect it here, the same thing you did to that left side, you're just going to keep flowing it until it blends with the line. So instead of 2 inches, because if you use 2 inches, it's going to make the bust, as in it's going to come out very well. That's it will come out big. That's the bust that will be bigger. But most times when sewing this, you need somebody that is a professional to be able to pull this up very well. So that's why I say just use the 1 inch, which is okay, and then you float it into this point like this, so you can see the dart. So now all of this now we're going to cut out. Now this is like darts that we're going to cut out. So the next thing we're going to do now, the simple way for me to do this, I'm going to cut it out and then I'll place it on top of each other. With that, it will be easier for you. Okay, so now let's cut out. So after doing this now, all of this line, so remember that slope, just cut out the slope so it's not confusing you. Cut out the slope. So we're going to place this on top of each other again now and take out the full body measurement. Okay, so in order for us to take out the full body measurement, here is what we're going to do. I'm going to take this like this and then I'll place it here. So you can see as I'm placing it here, just a little bit of an inch. It came out just like 1 inch on top, and then on this under bust line, just on top of the point where that curve is, and then this stays like this. So just look for something to like stable it down like this. On this side, just a little bit also. And then the next thing now, we're going to take out our full measurement. So for the shoulder measurement, remember that 1.5 inches that we took out for the dart. On this side we took 1 inch, and then on this side we took half of an inch. So just add that inches back on this point. You understand? Just add it back. That's all for this shoulder part. Add that 1.5 inches back to your curve, and then just curve it out like this. Just add it back. That's from here to here, so you can see it is already there. So now we have the shoulder measurement. So for the bust measurement, 39, when you divide 39 into 4, so I'm going to have, it's almost 10 inches, which is like 9 point. So let me just approximate it to 10. That's 40 inches. So you have 10 inches. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of inch for allowance, because we already have a little bit inside. So you don't need to add so much. So I'm going to add like 1.5 or 2 inches, depends on how much allowance you want. So that, just blend this here, and then you just mark this like this. And then you come to the under bust line. So for the under bust line, the under bust is 35 inches. So that 35 inches, we are going to divide it into 4 also. I'll place it here like this. I'll mark it. How the allowance we took from this place was about 1.5 inches. So that 1.5 inches, I'm going to repeat it here on the under bust like this. I'll mark it, and then I'll use my tape, my ruler like this, to connect the lines like this. And then on the waist measurement is 40. You divide it into 4 also, which is 10. I'm going to mark it like this, and then I'll add my 1.5 inches allowance also, and then I'm going to mark like this. So the next thing I'm going to add now is my hip measurement. So normally from your waist to your hip is usually between 8 and 9 inches. So you are just going to use this as a guide. So 8 inches. That's going to, you use 8 or 9 inches, it's okay. And then you mark it. So now you know that our hip is going to be on this point. You understand? So now our hip is 47. You divide that 47 into 4, place it on top like this. and then you mark it like this. Just use dot lines. Most times I like using dotted lines. Why dotted lines is easier? Then from this line, that waistline, you are just going to create a slant. You can see what I'm doing like this. Okay, so the next thing now is the knee length, which is 36. So you come to this point like this, and then you mark 9 inches like this. So for the knee part, I'm just going to add about 1 inch, just 1 inch allowance to it, because I want the dress to have shape. So I'll just connect it like this. So now you can see our hip. So I'm just trying to double check all of my measurements. Okay, so you can see it is okay. So the next thing now, I'm going to cut this out right now. So I'll open this up for it, okay? So you see how beautiful the center part is looking. It's that shape. So you have a slant, just with a little bit of bustier here. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to cut out the back. So the back is just a normal back. So for the back measurement, so I have some lines here which I'm going to explain. The first one is our shoulder line. This is our bust line, which is from shoulder to the nipple point. That's your bust line, and then from shoulder to our waist. This is our waistline, and then this is our knee line. So from shoulder to knee, which is 36. So the next thing now is just for us to add our shoulder measurement here. So the shoulder measurement that we're using for this is 8 as well. I've been doing 16, and then from that 16 I'm going to add 2 inches for zip allowance. So I'll add my 2 inches for zip allowance, which you can just decide to start. Okay, the easiest way for me to do it, let's just take out 2 inches, and then I'll rule these 2 inches down. That's going to be my zip allowance. Okay, so that's for my zip allowance. So every other measurement that I'm going to start, I'll start it from here. You can decide to fold it in, and then I'll now take out my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. So I'll just add just 1 inch for my allowance, and then from this point I'll come down by 1 inch, just like I did for the front part, and then I'll mark it into the shoulder line like this. And then from here now I'm going to mark my armhole, which I'm making is of 8 inches or 8.5. I'll mark it here like this. So that 8 inches is like standard measurement. You never go wrong with it. I'll mark it and then I'll connect it like this, just like I did to the front part. Okay, so we're going to mark the bust measurement. I'm trying to look for it. Okay. So our bust measurement, we're using 39 inches. So note our zip allowance is loaded inside. So from this point like this, I'm just going to come, it's almost 10 inches. I'll mark it here, it's not up to 10. And then I'm going to add that measurement. I'm going to take out for the back just 1 inch, and then 1 inch for stitching allowance for my back piece. I'll connect it like this, and then I'll come to the waist measurement. The waist is 40. I'll mark that 10 inches here. I'll still add my 1 inch that, and then 1 inch stitching allowance. So I'll take these two lines like this. I'll connect them like this, and then from this line I'm going to mark my hip line just like we did before, 8 inches. So this actually makes it easier. I'll connect it like this. So that's for my hip line. Okay, so now I'll add my hip measurement now. So my hip is 47. Divide, you mark it, and then for the hip part I'm not going to use 1 inch allowance. I'm going to use about 2 inches, and then from this point you're just going to make a curve like this, just like a slant like this. You understand? So you can see what I'm doing. It's a simple process. Just curve it, and then for the knee is 36. On that knee part, which is 9 inches, I'll mark it here like this. Okay, and then I'm going to add just 2 inches allowance for my knee, and then I'll take my pattern curve like this, and then I'll curve it in like this to this point. So the next thing now, we're going to add our dart. So to add our dart, I'll come to my waistline. I'm going to use my half of my bust span measurement also. I'll mark it here like this. That's that same 4.5 that we used before. I'll mark it here like this. And then I'll come take it off also, because we are cutting it from the top down. Mark the 4.5, and then that 4.5, I'm going to connect everything together like this. And then I'll connect it to the down also 4.5, and then I'll come to the waist part also. On this side, I'll come in by half of an inch, and then half of an inch. So this is optional. You can do 1 inch and 1 inch, depends on how big you want your dart to be. So from that part, you take it like this on that bust line. I'm just going to connect it like this, that 1 inch to this point like this, and then on this point I'll connect it to this point like this, and then I'll come to this point also for my bust line. That's the nipple point line. Connect it like this, and then I'll connect it like this. So when I cut now, I'm going to cut off all of this. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now, I'm going to add the neckline. So for the neckline, depends on how wide you want the neckline to be. So for the, before I cut it out, so for the front, this is my front part. This is the center of the front. So whatever you do, just make sure that your neckline does not exceed 3 inches. That's the wideness. So you can see, so this is for the front piece. I want to cut both of them together to make it easier. You can do 3 inches or you do 3.5, depends on how wide you want it to be. Okay, and then the depth, you can measure, put your tape on your shoulder and then measure it to where you want it to get to. So for this one is about 6 inches. That's the wideness for the front. That's the depth of the front neckline. You know our back pattern, it is folded inside our zip part. So you take your pattern curve like this. I'll use the other smaller one, and then I'll take it like this from that 3.5 inches point. I'll just create a curve like this. So the next body, this is for the front neckline. So for the back neckline, make sure, that's why it's always good to put them together. Just connect here like this, make sure that they are the same. So for the back neckline, depends on how deep now. So we have our width, how deep you want the back neckline to be. If you want it to be 3 inches, or if you want it to be deep like this, you can use 4 inches. But whatever you do, just make sure that the front neckline is deeper than the back. That's is deeper than the back. Or if you want a deep back, you can make the back deeper. So it's optional. And then I'll curve this for the back neckline. Okay. So I'll cut this out right now. So this is for the front neckline. I'll just cut it like this, and then I'll show you. I'll open it up, and then this one is for the back neckline. So for the back, we'll cut out our darts now so that you can see how it is looking. So cut this part like this, and then remember that shoulder, we'll cut it off. And then for our darts, for the back darts, we're going to cut it like this. This is the center line, so you just cut like this, and then cut this. It should not go into the neckline part, if not you won't be able to stitch it. And then after cutting that one, this other side, you are just going to cut it a little bit, just to cut off that dart. So you can see, how the pattern is looking. It has shape. So this is our zip allowance. You understand? So this zip allowance part, you can just blend this. So this is our zip allowance for our back. This is our back piece. this is the zip part for the back piece, and then this is our front piece. So I need to just shift that and then show you the front part. So this is the front piece. So you can see how the front piece. So this part is going to join to that part, and then this join to this part. So like I said, after stitching, after you have finished stitching, turn with your lining before you join the down part. That's if you want to join the down part, if you want to add flare or pleat to the down part. So thank you so much for watching.